Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have family law attorney Rekha Akella of the Carlson Law Firm, who is calling in all the way from Round Rock in Texas. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, Rekha has a wealth of experience in the area of family law and will be talking to you today about considering the best interests of children in divorce. So, if you are a couple going through any kind of divorce procedure, grab a notepad and pen and listen in to what Rekha has to share with us today, because I'm sure she has some great insights for us. So with that said, let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Rekha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, my dear. Now then, let's make the best use of our time, Rekha. Can you briefly describe in your own words the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
Well, Stewart, a lot of the people I see are couples who are going through a divorce and who have children. So a lot of times, of course, with any parent, their biggest concern is going to be how to protect their child while the case is going on. And similarly, I'll have a lot of couples come in who never got married but still have children together. And now they're going their separate ways. And again, they just want to see how they can protect their rights as a parent and how they can protect their children's interests as well.
Okay, so with that said then, Rekha, and keeping in mind that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance, can you briefly share one of the most common misconceptions surrounding, let's say, considering the best interests of children in divorce?
I think the number one biggest misconception I hear is people thinking that they should keep their child involved heavily in the divorce proceedings. And what I mean by that is a lot of couples, especially ones who have older children, like maybe young teenagers, middle school age, they think, well, I want to be completely open. I want to tell my child every little thing that's going on. That's actually usually much more hurtful than helpful. A lot of times, really, the children don't need to know about every little argument between the parents, about what the other parent's saying, about why the couple is getting divorced. A lot of times it's really not helpful for the child to hear or know all that information.
Okay, so based on what you just shared with us then, Rekha, and keeping your client confidentiality in mind, please share an example of how you've helped someone who came to you with those challenges, with those misconceptions that you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain for them.
Well, one of the things is a lot of counties in the Texas area will have what we call a standing order. And what that means is it's a list of rules that every single couple in a custody proceeding or divorce proceeding involving children has to follow. And one of those rules actually usually is do not talk about the proceeding with your child. So by making sure my clients are aware of that and follow that, that gains them a lot of favor with the judge because it shows that they are taking the child's considerations in mind. So a lot of times, simply the fact that my client didn't try to involve the child in the divorce proceedings will make the judge feel pretty comfortable with them, because then the judge will say, okay, well, this person already is aware of the rules and already is aware of keeping their child's interest in mind. And that kind of will push them closer to getting primary custody than necessarily a parent who's spilled all the details to the child and is treating the child more like an adult.
Okay, so we're talking about the best interest of children in divorce. who are the parents who are going through a divorce proceedings. With that in mind then, Rekha, what's the most common, and I'm sure there are a whole bunch of them, but what's the most common unknown pitfall that you'd like to bring their attention to today?
I think one big pitfall is parents failing to treat one another with respect during a proceeding. Obviously, a lot of times during a divorce, the parents are mad at each other, and that's understandable. But when that anger is displayed in a way that it's obvious to the child, that's not good. And that's a big pitfall because the judge will hate that. Co-parenting is very favored, and co-parenting heavily relies on respecting the other party in front of the children, because that way you're modeling a healthy relationship to your kids. And you're showing your kids, like, even if mom and dad are having problems with each other, mom and dad still realize that they're both the parents. And they both want to be involved in the kid's life. They both want to treat the child with respect. It's very important, basically, that each parent respects the other parent's role in the child's life.
Right then, Rekha. So you're a family law attorney. How many years have you been practicing?
I've been practicing for a little over 2 years, but I've been working in the field of family law for about 8 years now.
Okay, so imagine this then, Rekha. It's a Monday morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever the time is in your part of the world when your alarm clock awakens you. How does Rekha feel about the day ahead and the clients that she has to serve?
Well, usually on a Monday, that'll be after a visitation generally. Most visitations will occur on a weekend. So Monday morning will be the day after the other parent had visitation with their child. So a lot of times clients on a Monday will call upset about something that happened over the previous weekend. 90% of the time, those calls will basically be them upset about something that's actually pretty minor. So my goal and my job in that situation is to kind of set realistic expectations. So if a client calls and they're upset because maybe a mom calls me on Monday, she's upset because over the weekend dad bought their daughter a new dress and she didn't want dad to do that. Well, that's pretty minor. A judge really isn't going to be that upset about dad buying some new clothes or something like that. But if mom calls and she's upset because dad took, a 7-year-old child to see a PG-13 movie, well, something like that might be a little bit more concerning because it does possibly show that dad's not realizing what kind of limitations the child might have. But again, that's still fairly minor. That's not worth going and filing some kind of injunction or immediate protective order. So just kind of like tapering expectations and making clients realize what's realistic to be upset about and what's realistic to go file some kind of emergency order for. So if mom calls and says, okay, well, over the weekend, my child got really sick and dad didn't take him to the ER, that might be worth filing something over because that's a little more concerning.
So that's how a typical day looks in your world then, Rekha, but how do you actually feel about your job? Is this something that you're really passionate about? Is it something that you really love when you wake up in the mornings?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I actually started working in family law prior to law school, and that's actually what made me decide to go to law school, is because I knew I wanted to work with children and I wanted to be a family law attorney. So as soon as I graduated, that was my number one thing, was that I knew I wanted to work in family law, and I wasn't considering any other area. And that's basically been all I've done.
Right. So, your passion certainly comes through as you're sharing these insights with us. And I'm sure if there are any divorcing couples out there that are listening to you right now, Rekha, they would want to know a little bit more about you. So could you briefly tell us Yeah, a little bit more about yourself, and especially in terms of your background. You've mentioned just a little bit, and your education. You've also spoke some very briefly on that. If you could just expand a little bit more, and especially about your experience as it relates to the topic of family law.
Yeah, sure. So I first started working in family law when I was working in the child support division of the Attorney General's Office of Texas. And most child support collection in Texas goes through the Attorney General's office. So I was handling that in the Austin area and then also in the Waco area. I went to Baylor for undergrad and for law school, and that's located in Waco, Texas. So I spent a lot of time there working at the Attorney General's office. And then I also spent some time interning with private practice family law firms where I was seeing more, I guess, thorough representations of family law and not just child support. And that's when I was working more in contested divorces, dealing with property and custody and anything like that. I also served as a court-appointed special advocate for children in custody cases and CPS cases in the Austin area. And what that would be is I would be basically appointed to a case to serve as the child's advocate. So when the judge wanted to know about the best interest of the children, he would ask me to give a report. And that involved me visiting the child at home, visiting the child at school, just seeing what their day-to-day life is and making a recommendation to the court based on that.
So, Rekha, I'd like you to picture the kind of divorcing couples who come to you for help, and they're wanting to keep the best interests of their children in the divorce proceeding in mind. With that in mind, then, what final thoughts would you like to impart before we go on to finding out what your contact details are?
I think the number one thing parents need to remember is that their children are people too, and they should not be put in the middle. So the children should never feel like they're being asked to decide which parent to live with. They should never feel like they are being asked to spy on the other parent. And then they should basically be treated as if everything is as close to the same as possible, meaning that even if their life is going to change, parents aren't going to be living together anymore, it needs to be respected that they love their other parent, that they care about their other parent, and that other parent is involved in their life.
So if somebody wants to know more about how to keep the best interests of their children in divorce in mind, how can they connect with you then, Rekha? Where would they find you?
They can call me at my office. My phone number here is 512-671-7277. And I work in Round Rock, Texas, which is in the Austin area, but we take cases all over Central Texas. So I take cases that are as far away as like maybe an hour and a half from my office. They can also find us online at carlsonattorneys.com. That's CarlsonAttorneys.com. My firm actually has offices all across Central Texas. So we have offices in Temple, Texas. We have offices in downtown Austin, Texas. So even if they're not close to Round Rock, they probably are close to one of my firm's offices, and they can go there and I can meet them there, or one of my coworkers can meet them there as well.
Well, I have personally never been to Round Rock, but I just love the sound of that place. It just sounds like an amazing place. Round Rock. I just have this vision of people, really warm, welcoming people, and living in a round place with round and warm personality. So anyway,
that's Southern hospitality.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Maybe I should put that one on my bucket list. So anyway, Rekha, for the people who are out there, maybe you're driving in your car, maybe you're tuning in at work. Hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be working. or you're listening in on your cell phone, your tablet, or any other kind of personal device. That's all we have time for, unfortunately, today. We're just starting to get warmed up and it's time to go. So, once more, that was Rekha Akella. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Rekha. You certainly have demonstrated without any doubt whatsoever that you are a true educator and advocate, and I'd go as far as saying a trustworthy advisor for your clients' success. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, Rekha. And I'd also like to say a huge thank you to you, the listener, the divorcing couples out there who find yourself in that unfortunate position in life. Thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative conversation with one of the top family law attorneys in Round Rock today. Make sure you do check her out. Give her a call. She shared her phone number. Visit her website. Check her out on LinkedIn. I am sure you are going to be in good hands. So with that said, again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.